how you can bring this mindful movement so it's not just on a mat, in your yoga class, but how do you actually integrate it into activities in your life?
So I have a 21-day course that I created. It can be done with parents and children within 15 minutes, but it talks about a learn, which for the parents would be like learning about their nervous system and how to integrate it with their children, and then a move section, and then an explore section where you take the movements that were taught, like just even twisting side to side and the benefits of that, but take it into the world and how can you use it in other ways.
How does this play out for children?
So when parents or adults or caregivers, if they are dysregulated, 90% of the time, the kids are going to be dysregulated.
They're not misbehaving. They're trying to regulate their nervous system.
Right. Exactly.
Welcome to the Mindfulness in Motion podcast, the show that helps you move beyond the checklist of life and into a world of joy and meaning and discovery. I'm your host, Cori Myka, and I'm excited to have our listeners here today. And in this episode, I'm excited to have Tami. She is a movement specialist, nervous system integration facilitator, and the creator of Move into Calm, which is about how we can use mindful movement, breath, and awareness to regulate our nervous systems and support healing. So whether you're an adult looking to feel less overwhelmed, a parent supporting a child's emotional regulation, or someone who simply wants to feel more at home in your body, this is a conversation for you. Let's dive in. Welcome. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Cori. I really appreciate the opportunity. So
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So how you can bring this mindful movement so it's not just on a mat, in your yoga class, but how do you actually integrate it into activities in your life? Because that's what we do is we integrate it with the Learn to Swim process. We work exclusively with adults who are fearful and new to swimming. And so we're teaching them how do you tune into the body while you're doing this activity so that you can be in charge if you're calm or freaking out. You get to choose instead of it being chosen for you.
So I have a 21-day course that I created. It can be done with parents and children within 15 minutes, but it talks about a learn, which for the parents would be like learning about their nervous system and how to integrate it with their children, and then a move section, and then an explore section where you take the movements that were taught, like just even twisting side to side and the benefits of that, but take it into the world and how can you use it in other ways, just like what you're talking about. It's like when we're calm, and especially the water. And I would say to you, I probably would be I can swim, but I'm not 100% comfortable in water. So I can take what I've learned and transfer it to you because I've done personal training now for the past 3 years, and I've really helped me overcome a lot of things, but it's also made my Pilates practice that much. It's made me stronger in so many different ways, from confidence to strength. So,
yeah. So two things I'd like to come back to on that. One is what makes the swimming journey unique versus this mindful movement in other places is that we don't have access to air for a brief period of time. And so it's more opportunity to play with the nervous system on purpose because it's activated as it should be when air is not available. So this is just a word to the wise. If you want to implore your mindful movement into some water discovery, have that as part of one of the anchor points of bring curiosity of how air is easy anytime you want, because that's the big mental linchpin for people in the water. And then the other thing I want to come back to is you said, so when you work with parents and children, I think you said we learn or we teach, correct me if I'm wrong here, about things like turning and then how you can apply that in other places in your life. Tell me more about that. I'm curious.
Like, for example, not necessarily learning, but just even twisting, because when we twist our body, it begins to ring out. I'm using my hands down below. It begins to ring us out. And so when if you add a flapping to that and you hit front to back, you're stimulating your adrenal glands, but also your kidneys in the back and in the front. So it can bring calm, it brings a sense of calmness. Or side bending, even something as simple as side bending. And think about all the stuff that you do in the water, like from like even an overhead stroke, like a breaststroke, for example. But like if you've got families that are going side to side, I'm just doing it with them on dry land, but yet you're stimulating so much. And I guess I never even thought about it from a nervous system perspective of how you stimulate the nervous system in the water. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that so I did question teach or learn twisting, and the fact that you said you learn it, right? This is a natural human
Yeah,
movement, and
exactly.
we don't teach children how to
No,
twist.
but
They learn it themselves.
But
So,
what I do teach is the parents the value of it, because when we begin to twist our body and slap it, and then you can go fast and you can go slow, you're in control of it. But what it does is it stimulates the hormones in the body to begin to slow down.
okay, so now you said another one, twist and then slap it. What are we slapping?
Here, I'll show you. I'm not going to stand up. So just like if you're hitting front to
Okay.
back and you're hitting like the adrenal and the kidneys, it begins to, like, you could go fast, you can go slow, and then maybe you slow it really down and you go to a side bend. Or and I think when I look at, especially with children, I try to keep it fun and playful and things that they're going to find something that's going to resonate with them that they like to do. I also use.
Before you do that, I'm going to interject because we do video, but we're also just an audio podcast. So I'm just going to describe what you did as in terms of the slapping. So Tami was standing here and using her arms, swinging with part of the twist. And so tapping or slapping her hand around the hip bone on the front side, and I guess your hip bone on the back side too, and swinging the arms around. So they go side to side, hitting around, I would say around that kind of pelvic girdle. That's what I was observing. Yeah. So you're saying that motion of the twisting of the upper body to the lower body between the shoulders and the hips, plus this touching of your pelvic girdle, is stimulating your nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why would people do that? Why, you said about the nervous system and your adrenal glands. Tell us more about that.
Well, the adrenal glands, because when you think about the adrenal glands, that's where our cortisol and, we're releasing other hormones in there. So you want to think about the good hormones, like the endorphins, and thinking along those lines. But for somebody who is in what I'm going to just say, like, they might not feel like slapping themselves or hitting. I don't even want to use the word hitting.
Yeah.
Just gently stimulating that part of the body. Yeah. But for some people, that's why I said in the 21-day course, I use different kinds of movement and breath to help people begin to access their nervous system. Because if somebody's in shutdown, they're not, or in, like, they're depressed or they're anxious, they're not going to want to necessarily move their body. They might want to get in the water and swim with you. So, but yeah.
Maybe. That's a big hurdle though too. You have to like put a swimsuit on and get out of your house and get wet. And there's a lot of steps that sometimes, we need simple, tiny steps if we're in a depressed or anxious space. So what I hear you is that activating the nervous system, meaning these positive hormones, ways that we can do this through movement such that you can engage in your day-to-day life. Is that what you're helping folks do?
Yes.
Okay. And you're helping parents learn how to do that with their children.
Correct.
And how does this play out for children? What are children able to do that they aren't able to do beforehand?
So when parents or adults or caregivers, so that could be teachers, grandparents, caregivers, like, for example, preschool teachers, if they are dysregulated, 90% of the time, the kids are going to be dysregulated. So teaching the adults how to begin to regulate their own bodies first, because it begins with us. And then it transfers to the kids. So if the teachers are doing it with, or the adults are doing it with the children are going to sense that downregulation of the vagus nerve.
So say more about what dysregulation, I mean, this is a term that is going around a lot. So how would you define it? What does it look like?
Okay. Dysregulation in a body, and it can be adults or children. It could be when somebody is angry and their body, like you can see them going from happy to sad, and they move into, and their bodies actually become like they might have, their body might be more rounded forward. There might be like their arms crossed in front of them. So in a person who is in a shutdown state or a dysregulated state, there would be their eyes begin to chill. Like we don't even know this. This physiologically, our body begins to shut down. Our eyes begin to dilate. Our breath becomes shallow and we're only breathing with the 1/3 of the upper portion of our lungs. We even have issues like with like swallowing or talking. It can affect our voice. So I always like to say that trauma impacts our voice and our choice and our agency. And so when, if somebody is in a position where there is, I don't know, maybe they're being verbally, they're in an argument, and they automatically, that's just their mode, is they don't communicate, but they've been drawn like that. So a person opposite of that who is regulated would be happy and cheerful. I mean, there's states in between too, Cori, but I think that it's important to see the distinction between when you're happy and when you're sad or shut down. Our body goes through this continuum, and we want our bodies to be flexible and moving from one state to the next. And so a lot of times adults, if they're in a constant state of shutdown or bordering on that shutdown, it's going to impact the children in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you're addressing both. I used to, long time ago, teach parent-child swimming classes. It's not my area of expertise. And even when I taught children, I said, a huge factor is us helping the parents help the children. I even had an adult student. She said she would call her mom before going to swimming. And this woman is like 50, 60 years old. I'm not exactly sure how old she was at the time. And her mom would be like, "Okay, Luann, we'll just be safe." I'm like, "Luann, it's not helping you to call your mom before you come to swimming lessons, even as an adult," because she's activating your nervous system. So I love that you're starting there and that flow through.
Well, I bring a really vast, I'm going to say a plethora of, I've worked in the field of education, but I teach Pilates, and I teach what I'm going to call Pilates in yoga and functional movement. I own a Pilates studio. And so what I've done is I've pulled it all together, and I now see and work with children and their parents. I work in schools. I just finished literally on Monday of this week, a 10-month certification. It's called Applied Education in Neuroscience, and it's looking at trauma, adversity, and the nervous system. So the program is out of Butler University, out of Indiana, and it looks at the adults first. And Dr. Lori Desautels says the adults go first. We have to learn to begin to regulate ourselves. Our world right now is in such, it's all around us. The dysregulation is all around us. I read something this morning, and I liked what this person said. And they said our world is fractured. And I guess I had never thought about it like that before. But when we can bring a little bit of, many of our children don't know what's going on in our adult worlds. But yeah, we are bringing our adult issues, into our children's lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, as I think about this dysregulated state that we are in collectively, this kind of work, this mindfulness and motion work, life coaching, anything, all these things that are connecting us to this, what our nervous system is doing, and to help us be more in alignment with it and to not have it rule us, right? That we get to work with it. So important, because it becomes normalized, right? It becomes normalized that we're supposed to be at this heightened stress state all the time, but our bodies really aren't supposed to be at that heightened stress state all the time.
And I think that it's really important to talk about how when we're always at that heightened state, it causes us to have so many health problems. And I think that when people begin to understand, when we're in that constant fight, flight, or freeze, or in that constant elevated state, it can cause us to have, especially women, heart problems, breathing problems. It can cause, I mean, there's a study that was done, it's called the ACEs, and it looks at, are you familiar with the ACEs study?
Sure. Go ahead and describe it for any listeners.
So the ACEs study is a study that was conducted in the late 90s. And the original study looked at 10 different areas, but it looks at, how did we grow up? Did you grow up in a 2-parent family? Was there violence? Was there a parent that was alcoholic? I mean, it goes through this whole series of questions. And then what I've really liked and seen, like to look at it like over time, is the higher your score for the ACEs, the more likelihood it was going to be if you had an autoimmune disorder or cancer or an addiction or all kinds of things. And I'm going to say to you, I had a mid-range score myself, and I've had breast cancer. And it's like, and I think that, and I also grew up in a home where there was, at the time we didn't call it trauma, but now as we look back on things, according to today's standards, yes. So I guess part of this journey is for myself as well. I mean, to educate people on the importance of being calmer. And, just because you're a grandparent doesn't mean that you can't learn new ways. And so again, it has to go back to us. And, it's so important.
And I'm going to hold space for, I do think there's more and more scientific evidence, and there's more and more studies around our emotional state and how it affects our physical state. And I think we also have to hold space and be careful about that we're not blaming or shaming or telling people you are at the cause of for your example, breast cancer. And that Correct. Somehow you should have been, or it's at your fault, because these things, just like stresses, are normal in life, right? Loved ones die. This is normal. It's a normal stress in life. It's a part of a human life. And so is disease, right? We can ease our relationship with disease. We can do things to help support our bodies, and disease is still going to happen. So I want to be careful that we're not.
If I indicated that, Cori, that was not my intention.
No, I just want to be very intentional about it.
Yeah, that's a great point. But I think there's so many really, really good resources.
Nice. So take us back a little bit, keeping in our theme of mindfulness and motion.
Sure.
So you're teaching parents how to become more regulated, or even maybe to recognize their own dysregulation and to give them some tools.
Yep.
And then they're passing this to their children. What is the impact for children in their day-to-day life when this happens?
Okay, great question. So when you look at a child, and let's just even for a minute talk about an infant, because when a baby is still in utero, or when the mother is 7 months gestation, the nervous system in the infant begins to become like sensitive to the mother's stress levels, her emotional levels, and it's transferred to the baby. And a lot of times babies can be born colicky, so they cry a lot, because we already know it takes up to 3 years to begin to even a baby or a young child cannot regulate their own nervous system. And it's dependent upon the mother.
Or the parent.
Or the parents, I guess I should say, or a caregiver, depending on if they're in childcare or with a grandparent. So, but it could look like a lot of times a child's and especially comes out in their behaviors, because their behaviors, their line of communication for us. So crying, temper tantrums, just even something as simple as not getting their own way can be a trigger for them. They're not necessarily eating. I mean, it's more of the behaviors that can come out. So lack of sleep, it can disrupt their sleep.
So again, these things are normal pieces of childhood, of infancy, crying and temper tantrums and being upset when they don't get their way because they're trying to figure out how the world works. And you're offering folks ways to take these normal behaviors and the ones that have tipped over, because sometimes maybe it's an overdoing of these behaviors,
Yes.
that their nervous system needs even more help regulating, because all children need help regulating their nervous
Correct.
systems. Yeah. But then these methods will help them.
So just even teaching the moms, or let's just use the word caregivers. How's that?
Right.
Taking the caregiver and teaching the caregiver about, I call it our superpower, and it's breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's teaching them, because when we're not regulated, we breathe short and shallow in the upper portion of our lungs. And when we begin to take diaphragmatic or big belly breaths, it begins to expand us. But you inhale and then have a longer exhale, and sometimes even adding a sigh or even a hum, like a humming breath. And that would be just something as simple as, so it's reverberating on the vagus nerve that's down our neck. Drinking through a straw can be also calming. And these are things that I'm thinking about a person who's maybe holding a child, starting, and we all know that motherly, I'm going to call it the sway. It's very rhythmic. So rhythmic motion is really good for kids. So if you've got a baby and they want to do things, and rather than correct them, give them things that they can do. Like if they want to jump and you don't want them to jump on the sofa, give them something to jump, meaning jump on the floor with them. Those can be all really regulating for a child's behavior. But it's really kind of interesting, because when you take it and you look at it through the lens of a child, and then you maybe adapt your behavior to match the child's behavior, a lot of times it can turn into quite a lot of fun.
I love that. I love that idea with the jumping. Kids, I mean, we're all activated by mirror neurons, right? This is that thing that you smile and somebody else smiles back, or you yawn and somebody else yawns back. And of seeing the child who's jumping on the couch, they're not misbehaving and not listening to me. They're trying to regulate their nervous system. So helping them, then let's jump together over here using that mirror neurons and going right in with them to pair up this matching of our nervous systems. This is another one we do a lot in swimming, right? That we meet our client where they are, and then we, in our case, the practitioner, is starting to slow down a little bit, and then we'll help the other person slow down as well.
Same difference. Same difference. And I love the fact that, here we are, have never met prior to our conversation right now. And it's like, it's the same thing. I do the same thing with my adult clients or my young children clients. But I think too, like giving them tools that are like sitting on an exercise ball and bouncing up and down can be, something that's not super, it doesn't have to be expensive. There's a lot of different ways. And so it's adapting what the child's behavior is telling us, really, in reality, what they do need.
Yeah. Yes. How many bubble blowing? How much bubble blowing?
Oh, absolutely. And you blow bubbles in the water all the time.
Yeah, we do. So you mentioned the straw sucking one. That was an interesting one. I haven't heard of that, of sucking a straw, but I guess it makes intuitive sense in thinking about an infant, right? That's a very primary thing that they're doing. They are sucking to feed and sucking to feel calm. So I hadn't thought about that in terms of, as you age, that there would be some of that as well.
Right. But think about if a mom is holding a baby and the mom is like, the baby won't calm down, and the mom has to, first she has to calm herself down before she can calm the baby down. How easy is it for her to pick up a glass and have a straw in it that can help her? And that's why I said in that 21-day course, it's like, there's just giving the parents tools to help the child, let them understand, what are we doing and why does that help the child? So
absolutely, I love that. And it sounds like they're gentle and accessible thing. The thing I worry sometimes about working with parents is there's such a inundation of information and a underlying message of, you have to be perfect and get everything right, and it's this kind of a no-win situation. So I love that you're giving simple, empowering tools.
I try to give them simple, easy things to do without it costing a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that I do use a couple of tools, one specifically, and I can talk about it in a minute, but that things like blowing bubbles, using kinetic sand, or using regular sand, or giving them kids, like put them in the tub with bubbles, even if you got to use your dishwasher, like to give them bubbles and let them, there's a lot of things. Water is, I mean, you already know this, and I love your background. So this, to see the water behind you, but I think that like movement, what I'm finding in all of the research that I've done, and I've done a lot of research, so Move Into Calm is research based, is that they still go back to, put the kids in the chair at school and do, tap your brain, but yet in reality, they really need to stand up and they need to do a little bit of movement at their desk or at a wall that helps them before they got to learn. Because if a child is or an adult and we're in a shutdown mode, it shuts off the front portion of our brain, it closes off our hearing, and so we don't have the ability to learn. We don't have the ability to hear what someone's trying to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is where it's crazy making, when the discipline for kids who are having a hard time regulating is to take away their recess, or to take away their PE, or to take away these things that their bodies really need to be able to learn. Yes. Yeah, I love that. Okay, you wanted to share what?
But the other tool that I use is called a Stretch Ease. And a Stretch Ease is a snug, you can put yourself inside of it because it's an infinity loop that you can put anyway in your body. Like I use it with kids and I have them lay on it, put their bodies inside of it and stand. And one little boy said to me, Miss Tami, it feels like a big hug.
So it's like, I'm just going to describe it a little bit again. It's an infinity scarf. It looks like it's about 12 inches in.
Actually, it's based on size. So they have them from extra small to tall. And they just, I mean, there's just a whole, like I said, a multitude of things that you can do. Adults can use them to help support their back, like if they've got a yoga practice or a Pilates practice.
Okay. And what is it that when you're putting this stretchy material around yourself, tell us again about how this helps your nervous system.
So when we are snug, like when you think about a crossed body hug and you're hugging yourself, it helps us because it just makes us feel secure within our own bodies. And so for somebody who doesn't feel safe in their bodies, or a baby who's flailing their arms, we always want to swaddle them when they're an infant. And it helps calm them down as well. And what I've seen from using the Stretch Ease is the support. It gives the extra support, and the fabric is it's just soft, and it's like just soft to touch. So it does really ease. So when you think about like our emotions need motion to calm them down, but it also emotions and it feels like a hug. It truly does. Or whether it's supporting around the back, I've had kids put their, like I said, whole body inside of them and stand or lay down with it, and it can just wrap them up like a cocoon.
I see. Okay. A nice hug. Who doesn't need an emotional hug?
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Well, we just dove in today, and I love that. So, Tami, thank you so much for being here with us today. Where can we find you? How can people connect? Let's get those parents hooked up so they can help themselves and help their kiddos.
They can find me at moveintocalm.com. They can also find me at Studio, and it's STUDIO T Pilates, and that's also .com. And on either one of those websites, you can email me also, and we can talk about that at the very end. Yeah, I'm in Michigan, but I do work virtually. Like right now, I'm seeing clients in North Carolina and in Florida, so it can be done virtually as well. So all of the stuff that I do. And I have a 21-day course it's meant to be fast. I don't want to use the word fast. It's meant to be intentionally where you can pace it out. So I tell parents it doesn't take any more than 12 to 15 minutes per day to complete that day's information, and it can be paced over time. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Just what a busy parent needs.
Yeah. And that's also on the website as well. So
Great. So
find
people
that
can grab
information on the
there.
website. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And of course, we'll have those in the show notes. People can grab the links there, but it's always nice to hear it out loud too, in case to stick it in your brain. You want to jump right over there. All right. Thank you so much, Tami.
Thank you, Cori, for having me. I certainly appreciate it. So
Yeah,
thank you.
very good.